Cell-mediated immunity. Mechanism of cell-mediated immunity is the important short notes from the hematology. Sometimes it may be asked as a long question. So in this video, briefly we discuss about the cell-mediated immunity. Cell-mediated immunity mainly mediated by the T lymphocyte, so it is called as the cell-mediated immunity. Cell-mediated immunity defends against the mainly viruses, all the viral infections, some bacteria, example like tuberculosis infection and fungal infection, protozoal infection and Helminth's infections. It is also defends against the cancer cells, and it is the play important role against the transplanted tissue for the rejection reaction. The cell-mediated immunity, 4 types of T lymphocytes involved. First one is the helper T cell. Second one is the cytotoxic T lymphocytes and suppressor T lymphocytes and delayed hypersensitivity T lymphocytes. The T cell have an antigen receptor that react and recognize the specific antigen. Antigens are invading through the microorganisms or foreign particles. Antigens must combine with a major histocompatibility protein, then only T cell is attached with the antigen. The major histocompatibility protein has 2 types, that is major histocompatibility complex class 1 found in all cells and major histocompatibility class 2 present in the macrophages and dendritic cells of spleen, liver, skin. These places major histocompatibility complex class 2 cells are present. This major histocompatibility class 2 proteins is attached to the antigen presenting cell. Antigen presenting cells are special type of cells. The antigen presenting cells are macrophages or dendritic cells of the spleen, liver and skin. When the microorganism enter into the human body, that is engulfed by the antigen presenting cells, the antigen is break into the peptides within the antigen presenting cells. This antigenic fragment is presented on the surface of the antigen presenting cells. In the surface of the antigen presenting cells contain the major histocompatibility protein class 2. So when the antigen is bind with the major histocompatibility class 2 protein, in the surface of the antigen presenting cells contains the human leukocyte antigen that contains the genetic code of the antigen presenting cells. So it is the HLA matching is done for the transplantation, organ transplantation. So it is also contain the human leukocyte antigen that contains the genetic code for the antigen presenting cells. So before doing the transplantation, we must do the HLA matching. So when the antigen is presented on the surface of the antigen presenting cell along with the MHC2, it bind with the helper T cell. Helper T cells are stimulated and proliferate the many helper T cells. It activates the cell mediated immunity. T helper cells, also called as the CD4 cells, CD4. The T helper cells recognize the antigen when the antigen is presenting on the surface of the antigen presenting cells. It activates the macrophages and induce the cytotoxic T cell for killing the microorganisms. And the T helper cells also play the role in the antibody mediated immunity. Not only involved in the cell mediated immunity, it has a role in the antibody mediated immunity. It stimulates the plasma cell to produce the antibody. Okay. When the antigen present on the surface of the antigen presenting cell, it binds with the helper T cell. So the helper T cell has the two types. Type 1 helper T cell stimulate the cell mediated immunity. Okay. Type 2 helper T cell releases the interleukin 2 and cytokines and it stimulates the plasma cells or B cells, produces the antibody. It has a role in the antibody mediated immunity or humoral mediated immunity. Okay, so helper T cell not only play the role in the cell mediated immunity, it is also play the role in the humoral mediated immunity. Cytotoxic T cell, otherwise called as a CD8. So it kills recognize the antigen on the surface of all the cells or antigen presenting cells. It kills the viruses and bacteria and it recognizes and kills the cancer cells and it is recognize and destroy the transplanted tissue. It is also releases the protein called as the perforin protein that lies the invading organisms. Perforin make the hole in the invading organism and it lies the invading organism. The CD8 or cytotoxic T cells releases the perforin. The perforin makes the hole in the infective organisms. It allows the iron and water and destroy the infective organisms. Sometimes the CD8 or cytotoxic T cell in the disease condition, some immunity disorder, it will kill the own tissue also. Suppressor T cell is the regulate the cell mediated immunity. This is very, very important. So if the cell mediated immunity not only kill the microorganisms, sometimes it will kill the own tissue. So the immunity should be suppressed in the unnecessary conditions. That is suppressed by the T lymphocyte suppressor cells, type of T lymphocytes. So that regulate the immunity, cellular immunity. Another one T cell is a T lymphocyte is a delayed hypersensitivity cells, that is activated during the allergic reactions and rejection of the transplanted tissue. The delayed hypersensitivity T cells are activated in the allergic reactions and rejections of the transplanted tissue. Summary of cell mediated immunity. It is mediated by the T lymphocytes. When the organism enter into the cell, it is carried by the antigen presenting cells. It likes the antigen to the peptide fragment. It is present on the cell surface. It bind with the helper T cell. It stimulate the release of more helper T cells, and it is also stimulate the cytotoxic T cell. Cytotoxic T cells releases the interleukin and cytokines and kill the infective organisms, viruses and cancer cells. It releases the perforin that make the hole in the infective organisms, and T suppressor cell is regulate the cell mediated immunity. So unwanted time it will suppresses the immunity, and the delayed type of T lymphocytes, delayed hypersensitivity T lymphocytes play the important role in the allergic reactions and rejections of the transplanted tissue. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, share your friends. Those who are not subscribed this channel, please subscribe. Thank you once again.